Okay, so most of you might be knowing what UI and UX stands for. UI stands for user interface and UX stands for user experience. So I think the major difference between UI and UX is so anything that like UI and UX does not just apply to the apps or it's not just the digital form. It's not just restricted to the apps that we use day to day. It's a vast field. You can apply UI and UX to any physical device that we use on a day-to-day basis. Say, for example, a simple how do I tell you a chair that we sit on, right? So it has UI and UX applied to it. So there are a lot of aspects of UI and UX which we'll be covering throughout the course. But today I'll be covering just the process of uh, like what is the UX process that is being carried out. So if you want to build anything, be it a physical product or be it an app, what all process do you need to go through to do it? So we'll be diving into all those processes today. So it'll be a short, I think I'll not take more than 20 or 30 minutes of your time. Uh, but before that, I would also like to tell you guys that to get into this field, one thing that we'll have to keep in mind is we need to talk to a lot of people. We would, once you get into a company where you get into your work, you'll have to talk to a lot of people. So your work on a day-to-day basis, it involves talking to a lot of people, understanding their pain points, understanding what the user actually needs, what are we trying to solve for. So let's keep this session interactive. So I want you folks to ask questions if you don't understand or if I'm not being very clear enough. I want you folks to ask questions, and I think only then we'll be able to get a proper understand. I'll be able to understand you guys, and you'll be able to get a sense of what I'm saying, right? So that is one thing that I would like to tell you. So let's take a physical or a real time example of or to understand UI UX better or to know the differences of UI and UX, let's take a real world example. Say, for example, we're getting into a restaurant, right? So there is UI and UX in terms of the restaurant itself. So whatever you feel when you get into a restaurant, we see a lot of things around the restaurant, be it the tables that the restaurant is using, or say, for example, the chairs, the kind of spoons, plates, whatever you see, touch, and feel is what UI is basically in terms of physical products or right. So and where does UX come in terms of this example? There are a lot of aspects where we can refer UX. Say for example, how easy is the restaurant for you to find, or how do the waiter treat you, or how long did it take for you to get the food that you ordered? Did it take so long, or did you get it like within 5 minutes or 10 minutes? Right. So all of this will encompass into I think UX. So um, by the time you finish your food, the say for the time that it took for you to order your food and the time you came out of the restaurant, I think you would have experienced both UI and UX there. So uh, as I said, whatever you saw, felt, and you touched, all those are UI, but it does not just it's not restricted with that. The when you finish your food or when you come out of the restaurant, how do you feel about it? Like, do you want to go to the restaurant again, or would you recommend it to your friends? All of this is where UX is also influenced you, right? So with the did the food taste better, or as I said, how did the waiter did they take care of you well? So all of this is where the UX comes in. So I think don't when you take UI and UX, don't just restrict yourself to um, you know um, it's just restricted to the physical products or the apps that we use. Just try and figure out if you are to design your or if you are to it's everywhere. It's not just with your app and digital products. To understand this, I'll just show you another image. Are you able to see this image?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So these two are the same. Just the fact that it's in a different two different bottles. The brand is the same. The product within that is the same. So, but there was a problem with the image on the left, and they tried to rectify it with the image on the right. Um, can you take a guess on what is the problem with this image? And someone is trying to come. Okay. Can you take a guess on what is the image here? What is the problem with this product here on the left, and what was rectified here with this design on the right? So there was a user experience problem with this bottle, and was rectified using this.
I think the ketchup inside was not shown in the left side picture.
Right? Okay, you're saying this. So okay, it is not with what uh, you're seeing in this cup. It's just with this bottle and this bottle. We all would have faced this problem, but you would have never thought of like, is this a problem at all? Do we even need to solve for it? I think we'd have all used a bottle, glass bottle somewhere in our life, right? So be it in a restaurant or be it at home, we would have all used this. Okay, so let me tell you. So the problem with this bottle is one thing. I think it can easily break because it is a glass. Um, and the second thing is when it is full, I think it is easy to pour the contents that is inside, right? But if the consider assume that the bottle is half empty now, the contents are like the ketchup is only half the bottle. Now, what you'll have to do is you'll have to tilt it and then you'll have to wait for the ketchup to flow out of the bottle, or you'll have to what you'll do is you'll just shake it for it to come to the bottom of the bottle so that you can use it on the bread or pour it on the plate and then use it. And you also have the problem of a lot of ketchup being stuck inside the bottle itself. You'll not be able to take the remains out. There's no way you can kind of get things out from this bottle at all. There's no way you can put a spoon inside or take the things outside from it. That is the problem with this bottle, right? And how do they solve it here? They solve it using a design where you can also place the bottle upside down so that when it falls down by mistake also it doesn't break. So this is a plastic bottle, this is not a glass bottle. And now since this is upside down, all the contents always remain at the bottom. So the cap is also at the bottom. The moment you open the cap, is it easy for you to squeeze also, so that not a lot of leftovers are within the bottle. The moment you squeeze it, you get the ketchup. So it is easy for you to pour, and it is easy for you to also calculate the amount that you want to pour. So by squeeze, I think the opening of the bottle has a small hole in it, which also determines how much you want to pour. But in this, you cannot actually determine how much you want to pour. Sometimes when the content is half full and you shake it right, you might put a lot more than you intended to. So I think these are some examples that in real life where UX is applied. And I'll also show you another example of a physical product that we use in day-to-day life. I think this, oh, sorry, not this. Yes. We've all encountered this also. Can you take a guess on, I think our conventional remotes when we were young, we used to have TV remotes with so many buttons on it. But today, with the evolution of smart TVs, the remotes are like this today. Can you take a guess on why? Why were a lot of buttons removed from the remotes?
நிறைய சேனல்ஸ் நம்பர் வச்சு பேஸ் பண்ணிருக்கிறதால நம்ம நிறைய பட்டன் வச்சு வச்சுட்டாரு. இப்போ மேபி எல்லாமே ஸ்மார்ட்டா மாறினதால இந்த மாதிரி இருக்கலாம்.
Right. That's actually a good answer. Anybody else?
So அப்போ ஃபியூ பட்டன்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணி எல்லா கண்ட்ரோல்ஸுமே ஆக்சஸ் பண்ணிக்கிற மாதிரி ஸ்மார்ட் டிவிஸ்லாம்.
True, right. I think yeah, both Amir and Pawan got it right. So previous, if you see what we used to have as TV remotes were, they were very conventional in terms of we did not have YouTube or Netflix, or it was not smart, it was not connected to our internet. The only thing that we used to do in a TV remote previously was just change channels. Change channel. We used channel numbers to change volumes, and the channel buttons were the primary. Even if you see the conventional buttons, you're not using a lot of buttons, to be honest. Maximum we'd have used the most common buttons that we'd have used is volume up and down, the channel change button, and at some cases we'd have used uh, we'll type the channel number itself, right? So these were the more commonly used buttons, even in the remotes that we used previously. But since with the evolution of smart TV, I think, and today we also have set-top boxes. The previously we used to have cable TVs, right? And since we are having set-top boxes now, the set-top box operators also give us a separate remote which has all their numbers and all those things on it. So putting the same numbers or the same navigations on the TV remote also doesn't make sense. We have a term called as decision fatigue. So this is basically called as when you have too much options that you can choose from, you take a lot of time to choose which one you want. Say, for example, you have 10 different shirts. So on a weekday morning when you want to go to a college. So when you have 10 different options of dresses, you take a lot of time to decide on which one you want to wear, right? But if you say, for example, you just have two or three, it takes a lesser time for you to choose which one you want, right? So this is what we call as decision fatigue. The more options that you give to the user, the longer they take to make a decision. So to reduce that and also figure out what was essentially needed for the user. Though we had all these options in our previous buttons, the users were not using all of them. So there are only major use cases or major buttons that were used. Say there were around 50 buttons here, but out of those 50, only 10 were more commonly used. 90% of the time, only that 10 was used. So how do you optimize for that as a user, right? So that is where all of this came in. And with the evolution of smart TVs, the number of persons who are going and looking on channels, changing channels has reduced drastically, right? So most of us consume content on YouTube and other streaming platforms. So I think this makes sense to reduce a button where you have less controls, but also concentrate on what are the major controls. So these are few examples of UI and UX in like real world physical products that we have been using. If you go sit and think about the products that we use day to day, you can actually find why has something evolved. I think design also evolves from, so initially when it gets introduced, it will be in a certain form, or it will have when it comes to digital features, right, digital products, right? So initially when they launch a product or launch an app, the number of features will actually be lesser compared to it, in 5 years after. So 5 years after, it will have a lot of features built in. So all of that goes through a process. So now we'll look into the process of how do you um, define a problem, or like where do you start when when you all want to build a application, be it for since we all be working on a project which will be digital, we'll now talk about how do you define or what are the processes involved to build an app or a digital product, right? We'll go into that process. Um, so, so these are the design processes that we'll be doing as part of this project too. So for any, be it physical or be it digital, these are the basic, 8 different steps that anyone has to go through for them to build the product. One more second, I'll also share the attendance sheet with us. So I've pasted a form link in the messages. You can also click in respond to the form. We'll at the same time go through the design processes one by one. So what is defined? The first step in the process is define. So what is defined basically is we'll take example for we'll take an WhatsApp as the example to understand all these eight different processes, right? What is defined? So define is where you identify the problem. You define what are you going to solve for. Um, so in case of an WhatsApp, what would have been the design problem is before WhatsApp was introduced, a conventional method of communication was either a phone call or the secondary method is what normal text messages. But those text messages were limited in terms of technology or in terms of communication. There were a lot of restrictions on our conventional text messages, right? So one the can you tell me what are what are the differences between or what are restrictions that we had in the normal text messages and in terms of when you think about WhatsApp, what all main points that we had?
Into encryption.
Sorry, Paul, I'm not able to hear you. Can you repeat? Okay. Um, so the different process where you define what the problem is and what are you going to solve for. If you're going to say, okay, I'm going to build WhatsApp, why is even WhatsApp needed, right? Why is even WhatsApp needed? And this is where you identify the problems and you also define who are you going to do it for. In case of WhatsApp, they identify the problem of okay, today the conventional messaging is just your text message, but what are the shortcomings of a text message? You can't send an attachment, you can't send an image, or you cannot send a file through a normal text message. And then the MMS messages that were also very costly. And in a normal text message, you cannot send it across borders. You cannot send it to across outside of your own country, right? That was some of the pain points that the users were encountering. And with the evolution of smartphones, I think we all add data on our end. We all add that is when Wi-Fi and all was kind of evolving and mobile data was picking up. So I think with technology, the founders of WhatsApp they um, excuse me, they found an opportunity and they thought they need to bridge this gap of communication that was lacking. So that is when you decide on okay, you define the problem and you also tell who are the user groups that we are going to define it for or we are going to design it for, right? So this is where the define phase comes in. And next, what you do is you do the research. Second is the research part. So why is research important? So now we have decided in the define phase, we have decided what the problem is, and we have identified um, the set of uses that you're going to solve for. So if you take, for example, in the define phase, what you would have done typically is, okay, these are the pain points with today's app, right? So for example, a conventional message, there are different pain points, and who are the major users of the text messages? All those you would have defined. So we are going to design a feature for them. But in the research phase, what you'll do is you'll understand the users who you're trying to build for. Say, for example, your user groups are within the age of 18 to 30, right? Now, you'll have to understand the users. You cannot just go and build an app without understanding the user. So that is where research comes in. Now, what you do is you gain a deep understanding of the user, and you also understand what the product is going to solve for. So there are different methods in the research itself. We'll talk about that later during the course. But um, research helps you understand your users basically and what are you trying to solve for. The different methods maybe is you go talk to the user, you go talk to you send them surveys and you ask them to fill forms, you do a lot of things in research where you finalize on, oh, this is my user group. This is how they are going to encounter my product. You get all the things done. You collect data basically in research, right? This is what you do in a research phase. And the next is the analysis phase. So analysis phase, you where sit and you brainstorm on all the data that you've got. So during the research phase, you've collected a lot of data, which is very raw, right? You just have insights on what this data is going to provide on. So you've collected data. Now you will have to understand this data, what am I going to do? How is this going to help me build an app or solve this solution, right? So that is where you sit and analyze. Since now in the analyze phase, if you've done, okay, I've collected data from my different set of users. How do I take this information and put in a method where I can use it to build an app? So during the analysis phase is where you come to a point or you take a lot of design decisions in terms of what is going to be my initial screen, how the user is going to get into my app. So you also list down your basic needs of the app. So if you take WhatsApp, for example, what is the basic thing that it was trying to achieve? It is just trying to uh, enable users to send messages across their contacts anywhere in the world. And along with this, they can also attach images, basically send multimedia messages. This is the basic uh, action that you can perform using WhatsApp, right? So now, since they've arrived at this solution, analysis phase is where they decide on, okay, what is going to be my first screen? What is going to be my second screen? If I click on this, what is going to happen in the next screen? Or what is the action going to be? So this is where all of this happens based on the research that we have done. So this is where during analysis phase is where we build out personas. Personas are nothing but um, the target users that you're building the app for. Okay, you build the personas. Next, you write user stories. What are user stories basically? User stories are um, how do I tell you? So user stories are nothing but how is the user going to interact with the product? What are the different type of environments that he'll be using the product in? So these are the things that you will figure out. And based on all this, you'll just sit and draw the wireframe. So what I mean by wireframe is, I'll just show you guys what a wireframe is. So, yeah. This is what a wireframe basically means. So based on the research that you have done and analysis that you have done, you'll just build out or you'll just draw some rough wireframes of how is my app going to look. This will not have any data on, this will not have any color, this will not have any proper looking images or text, nothing. This will just give you a basic layout of what your app is going to look like. Here, what all you'll decide is, okay, if this is going to be my first screen, what is going to appear here? Okay, this circle is where I'm going to fill in my contact images, or if there's no image, how is it going to appear? And this will be the name of the person. On the right side, what is this for? So this will be the timestamp. So what is the search going to do and why is the search important? So all these things will be decided at the wireframe level. Once you've decided all of this here, it's not going to change. From this is where you move into the UI phase, which this also comes into the UI phase, but what I mean by UI is just applying colors, what fonts do you want to use, all of that will be uh, taken care only after the wireframe is being finalized. So wireframe is not just, wireframe is where you do multiple iterations of how your product is going to look like. What will be the first screen, what will be the next screen, what will be my main screen, all of these things you'll decide on. And then how is my interaction going to be, where the user needs to click for a certain action to be done. So all of this gets decided at a wireframe level. So this is the basic wireframe of how a WhatsApp might look like. So if you see, I think we'll be able to identify what the screen is and what all the three screens are about, right? So this is the wireframe. And next, if you see, is where we get into the design. So analysis is ending with the wireframe phase. So once you've decided on the final wireframe, the wireframe also goes into a lot of iterations, but once you've decided on this is going to be my final app, this is how it is going to be look, this is the structure of my app. So you get into the design. What you'll do in the design phase, what you'll do in the design phase is This is where you will figure out what color am I going to use, what is the font that I'm going to use, what will be my design language. So if I click on a button, is it going to open a new screen, or is it going to just be a side drawer, or it's just going to be another screen that's going to appear from the bottom? So, or it's just going to be another model. So model is nothing but a small pop-up which appears when you click on any of the button, right? So all these small interactions is where you decide at the design level, and you also have a lot of things to consider when you're getting into the final design. So we have in UI, we have color theory, typography. Typography is nothing but what is the font that you're going to use. Color theory is what is the primary color of my product. So you cannot use random colors, right? Colors have meaning to them. So we'll dive deep into the color theory and all as and when we proceed with the project. But yeah, so this is where the design phase comes in. So once you've done all your design properly, like the wireframe that you saw, if it is properly done, is how our today's WhatsApp is going to look like, right? With all the colors, with a proper UI elements and all those things. Once that is done, the next phase is the prototype. So, I think you might know the word prototype, or you might understand what prototype actually means, right? So, once it's properly developed, we give the users, say for example, if it's done, we don't release the prototype for everyone. So prototype is basically our beta testing kind of thing, where we just invite users, our target users, since we know the target users from our research group or from the research process. Typically what happens is we release these to some uh, restricted users, or in a big companies, what they do is they ask the users to come to the company, and then they give out the prototypes to the users and ask them to interact with the prototype. So, but why is this important is this is where you will identify, are the users using the product the way it was designed to be, or the way it is intended to design. Are they using it right, or what are the difficulties they are facing in the prototype? This will help you identify the initial hiccups the users are facing when they are trying to interact with the product. So this is where your prototype will actually help identify your what's working, what's not working. So all these things is where your prototype helps in. And excuse me. And the next phase is your test phase. The prototype and testing goes hand in hand. So hand over the prototype, and that is where the testing happens. And now once you've identified all the hiccups, what's working and what's not working, you go back, iterate on how do you make things better, or how do you help the user do things that you intended. So you again, after iteration, you again go into the testing phase of, okay, now I've made changes based on my previous observations during the testing phase. I'm going to, now I'm ready for launch. So this is where you launch the product, and if all goes well, yeah, it's out in the market and users start using it. So this is the process that is being followed when a app is being developed. This is the typical process that everyone needs to follow. And it might differ a little when it comes with respect to different companies, kind of they add more process to it, or some companies remove certain processes from it. And it's up to the companies to decide on what they can add or remove. But majorly, if you see, these are the fundamentals of building a product. Yeah, that's it for today from my side. Any questions you guys have? Did I do it properly, or are I too fast? Do you guys understand? Okay. So from the next class, we'll be starting on the project, not the side project, but the plan is to give you guys different problem statements and make each one of you work on different projects, so that it will be useful for all of you when you finish the course to get into an internship, or to get a job. You'll have each one of you would have completed a project by the end of this course. So that is the plan. Any questions? Yes, yes, Kasturi.
Sir, I think you, for me or else for all I didn't know, sir. Your voice is not much clear, sir. Yes, it's about
My voice
like
was not clear.
yes, sir. Sometimes
Oh,
for me not, but I'm not sure. I want to clear with this.
okay. Um, is this the same with everyone? Was my voice not clear?
It is clear for me, but it can be more clear.
Okay. Pavan, Aditya, Vasu, Bharat.
Oh, sorry, it's clear, but some noise is there, sir.
Okay. I'll see what I can see, Kasturi. So,
Okay, sir.
I will, yeah.
Apart
Let
from
me
all
just
our
remove my, yeah, just remove my, change my mic and then see if it is working properly. That's it. How is it now? Is it same or is it much better?
it's much better than previous, sir.
Okay. Cool. I'll change my microphone from next class. But if you guys have, I'll also